Coming to you live from Stratobox Studios in Manila, Philippines.
Hello.
Filipinos
Wait,
who are
Sir
working
Arnold.
abroad.
Yes. Go ahead. Welcome to the show, Sir Arnold.
Okay, thank you, Franz.
So, just to jump into it, how Singapore handling the pandemic? Kamusta kayo dyan ngayon?
Well, we're good here in a sense. We have tight control
Yeah.
being implemented by the Singapore government.
Okay.
So, short of saying that it's a total lockdown, it's not actually.
Yeah.
But the intention is to have a sort of circuit breaker where the spread of the virus is controlled by limiting the movement of all the folks around here. Okay, so the intention is just to make sure that everybody stays at home. Okay, and then have a sort of limited terms of movement
Yeah.
where you just need to buy the stuff that you need, the essentials, whether it's medical or for your sustenance. Then
Yes.
everything in that aspect.
Yeah. And talking about Singapore, how long have you been working in Singapore?
I've been here, France, since the year 2000.
Wow.
Quite a while. 20 years now.
20 years. Wow.
And
So,
counting.
yeah, so maybe you can walk us through how you saw the advancement of Singapore. I personally know Singapore as the tech hub in Southeast Asia, right? And whenever there's a new phone or a new gadget, Singapore would be at the forefront of product launches, right? So maybe you can walk us through how the advancement of technology changed from the first time you stepped on Singapore.
You're trying to walk me down memory lane, France. But true enough, when I first came here in the year 2000,
Yeah.
that was just about the same time where, all the big camera companies, Nikon, Kodak, sorry, not Kodak, but rather Canon, Nikon, Fuji.
Yeah.
So they were all trying to push advancements in the digital field. Okay, that was where about the same time where the film
Yeah.
cameras were sort of hitting the ceiling of the advancement.
Yeah.
Okay, so around that time, it was a choice where you can physically see the change from film cameras and then the hard marketing push of the digital cameras. Okay, so even not small, but smaller players compared to the others, like Casio, a few other names as well, sort of Panasonic, for example.
Yeah.
So they were really pushing hard in terms of the digital media.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so from there you can really see it's basically being spoiled for choice. Okay,
Yeah.
you're entering a new country, and at the same time you're at the forefront of all these new models, all these
Gadgets.
new gadgets coming out. Yeah, so you had to, if you were in the market for buying something, a digital camera at that time, you were spoiled for choice, and at the same time you were swamped with all sorts of information, research, data that you needed to go through carefully, make sure that you just knew what you were buying.
Yeah.
Okay, you had tons of questions coming in with respect to pixels, with respect to image quality,
Yeah.
with respect to color saturation.
Yeah.
all sorts of topics. These are sometimes taken for granted these days.
Yeah.
But back then, it was really something that you had to seriously consider,
Yeah.
okay, and seriously take into account when you're deciding to purchase a camera, especially if you're starting out and trying to figure out, which direction you'd want to go to.
Mm. Great. So, sir, since you've mentioned the technology, in terms of communication,
Mm.
I understand that I mean, in terms of communication, I mean, there's nothing as fast as the communication now, right? So, back then, how was the communication? Maybe when you want to call your family here in the Philippines, how did it go?
Yeah. Back then, when I first landed in Singapore,
Yeah.
I came here in the shores of this country alone. Okay, so I had to leave my family back in Philippines for that duration, and the only means of communicating with them is either through email, snail mail, or we had to buy what we call the phone card.
Yeah.
A phone card allows you a certain number of minutes, okay, based on how much you pay. I think that time, if you paid $10, that allowed you from Singapore to Philippines a landline call of about, if I'm not mistaken, about 3 to 4 minutes.
Wow.
Okay, so imagine that $10 for that short a span of
Yeah.
time.
And
If you
now,
compare it
mm,
to technology that's available now,
like
you have
Zoom,
Zoom, you have
Skype.
WhatsApp, you have Skype, you have Viber, you have Teams. All sorts of communications platforms are available to everybody.
Yeah.
All you need is an internet connection.
Yeah.
So even if you don't subscribe to any of the services that are paid,
Mm.
you can go to a library, or you
Yep.
can go to a mall,
Mm-mm.
or you can go here in Singapore. There's a nationwide or an island-wide network connection
Yeah.
that you can just sign up to for
Mm-mm.
free. Okay, of
Mm-mm.
course, with a limited bandwidth of service,
Yeah.
but still it's free.
Mm-mm.
And you can just dial in and call your folks back at home, and just have the time of your life just talking to them.
Yeah, and of course, even
Very,
the
very different,
yeah,
friends.
and even like now, there's a pandemic. Everyone's working at home, right? So
That's true. Yeah.
technology gets really is an advantage now. So
Mm.
yeah, so in terms of photography, I understand that you also had a group here in the Philippines, right? I mean,
Mm.
that's DPP, right? Digital Photographer Philippines.
Back then,
Back
yes.
then.
I spent some time in Philippines as well. I was part of the initial team that was putting together the group called that's the one, the DBP,
Yeah.
okay, Digital Photographer
Yeah.
Philippines. Okay, so all those folks that you know them as very passionate about photography. So the medium of digital photography has taken its roots very solidly in Manila.
Yeah.
Okay, so way back then we had our meetings in Nick's studio,
Yeah.
sometimes in small restaurants. We just try to pool our ideas together,
Yeah.
just to make sure that we have we're all going to the right direction. I think at that time we were all sure that digital photography was the way to go to. Okay,
Yeah. Mm.
nobody was even thinking about returning to film.
Yeah.
But since digital photography as a media was at its,
Peak.
I would say, as not really infancy,
Mm.
but it was really sort of surging as
Yeah.
far as gaining popularity among the both professional and amateur photographers. People who were also going into the art of photography
Yeah.
always had a question: should I go to film? Should I move to media of the digital media? Okay,
Mm.
so it's always that question, and then since it was more available digital media, digital cameras was more available during that time.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were going there, but at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, there was a lot of questions being asked,
Yeah.
whether what brand to go to, or what model to
Mm-hmm.
start with, okay,
Mm-hmm.
what equipment to go for. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of saying, okay, just go for this, go for that, but also establishing what type of photographer are you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what
Yeah.
kind of media do you want to what kind of genre,
Yeah. Venture
okay, of
on.
photography that you'd like to venture to.
Mm.
And then it starts from there, and then the conversation starts.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so it was a very good medium because we had in our meetings a collection of people who were basically the founders of what we see today, that are sort of pillars in the photography genres in the
Yeah.
Philippines.
Mm-mm.
So we had folks who were into landscape.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so the people who were into catching the light, people
And
who
yeah.
were foremost in fashion
Mm.
photography, okay,
Some
and
of the some of
product photography as
yeah,
well. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
some of those are actually members here, like Sir Joel
Oh, great.
Garcia. He's also here in Photo. I'm not sure if he's watching, but most
Okay.
of the photographers who were part of Digital Photographer Philippines
Mm.
are also here. So yeah, so and
That would be good if they're watching. That's
diba?
I
Sir
don't know if
Ali.
they still remember me. That's like 15 years ago.
Yeah, so actually we were planning to do an reunion for the
Okay.
members, but the problem was everyone was busy, and
Okay.
yeah, we were trying to do something. Anyway, yeah, Sir Arnold,
I would challenge you, France, to organize something like that among
diba? Why not?
the initial folks who started the
Yeah.
DPP in Philippines.
Because me, personally, I really DPP was one of the reasons why I ventured into photography.
Ah,
Um,
great.
yeah, and
Good to know
yeah,
that.
and eto sir, talking about DPP, I know that DPP started as a forum, right? And you also discovered Pinoygraphers in a forum in Singapore. So maybe you can tell us more about how
Well,
you
true enough.
discovered.
When you're probably it's common for folks who are moving from the Philippines into a new country. Okay, so it's just typical that you'd want to find
Yeah.
some form of stability,
Yeah.
some place where you can plant your feet
Mm.
and
Oh,
say that
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry. Go
say
ahead.
that you're
Yeah.
you're sort of settled,
Yeah.
okay, in the country that you're moving to,
Yeah.
okay, or that you're in.
Mm-mm.
Okay. A lot of times, the way to do it is to find people of common interests.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I wouldn't say everybody's into photography. Okay, but for folks who are a lot immersed in sports, for example,
Yeah.
okay, you can find people who are interested in the same line of sports.
Yeah.
For people who are interested in the arts, okay, so photography being one of them, it's good, okay, to get some form of anchor,
Mm-mm.
okay, anchor where you can relate to people who have the same interest,
Yeah.
of people who have the same passion, okay,
Exactly.
for photography. Okay, so or any type of interest or hobby that that you're into.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking about forums,
Mm.
it's really a totally different ball game, right? So I mean now comparing it now, because most of the
Yeah.
forums were dissolved, like DPP, and I believe PIFO also. Pinoy Photography was also. I'm not sure if it's still around, and
Well,
they're all.
you're forcing me down memory lane.
Yeah, I mean, there's PIFO, DPP, and now
Yeah, yeah.
they're probably
Well, I'm
somewhere.
not sure if the younger folks here in
No.
the who are listening know or remember any of this.
Mm-mm.
But way back then,
Mm-mm.
okay, it shows my age.
Uh,
Okay, way back then we had different forms of communication.
yeah.
Okay, right now we have the facilities for online collaboration, a lot of tools which make our communication very
Yeah.
fast. Okay, uh, almost like what Bill Gates promoted before,
Yeah.
wherein you have all the communication present at speed of thought.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so for us back then, uh, I think you had to think slower because we had forums,
Yeah.
we had SMS, which was a form of messaging.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we had pagers also back then. So just try to forgive us for that.
And the
Okay,
phones
but
were the phones
yeah,
were
to
really
reach
big.
out to people,
Mm-mm.
you really had to be a bit more patient
Yeah.
than you'd be these days.
Yeah.
Okay, just to make sure that people would know if you had any events going on or if you had any thing that you want to broadcast. Now, at least for the sort of midterm generation, we had you can post in Facebook
Mm.
or you can post in Instagram,
Yeah.
and then you can have this exact message available instantly across the platform. Back then, we had, at least for Pinoygraphers, which is the society, the registered society, the Pinoygraphers Singapore that we've established here in this country.
Mm.
Okay, way back then, we had what we called an SMS brigade.
Wow.
Okay, so the SMS brigade was we had a chairperson for that, and then she had like a few people who were helping out, literally typing in messages on their Nokia phones and sending it out to everybody who was part of the Pinoygraphers back then. Okay, so if we had street shoots or we had photo shoots in studio or what, so we would have everybody informed
Yeah.
through that messaging brigade. Okay, it's an interesting time, and there was a lot of work there, but it was fun. And at the same time, you can say that it's a totally
Different ball
different,
game.
a different approach, a different world, so to
Mm.
speak.
Mm. Great.
Okay.
So yeah, and in terms of forums, you really get to learn a lot, right? So because it's
Ah,
actually
true, true,
query
true.
based, and
Yeah.
yeah, and the narrative is really important, right? So when you
Yes,
post
yes,
pictures, it has to have a narrative.
yeah,
So
correct.
yeah, I believe you agree, right? So maybe you can tell us
Agree,
what
agree. In
maybe
in
you can talk us.
Pinoygraphers, we started out as part of a forum.
Yeah.
Okay, we call it bulletin boards during that
Mm.
time. So it's something similar to, I'm not sure if it's popular still these days, but Reddit
Yeah.
or the bulletin boards.
Mm.
Okay,
V
so
bulletin.
these types of forums, what would happen is that they would post questions, or we would have specific rooms or threads wherein a certain some member would like to inquire about how to take a particular photo or how to take a particular event or a
Yeah.
shoot. Okay, and at times that would also provide a means for that particular member to post a photo. Okay, so that would then be subject to comments, subject to inputs from the members. Okay, so it's the only visual part is actually the photo itself.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, so it starts from there, from the photo, and then from the visual portion, everything just explodes into a narrative.
Mm.
Okay, a narrative of uh, positive comments,
Mm.
okay, inputs to help the one who started the thread,
And
to allow him to improve.
yeah.
Okay, to sometimes it's very visceral.
Mm.
Okay, in the sense questioning, to the point of questioning why the photographer took the shot in the first place. Okay, the intentions, the motives. Okay, so it's a very different. A
Approach.
different sort of approach. Yes, exactly. A different approach to reviewing or viewing photographs.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so the photographer, for example, you would be you would be mindful
Mm.
of the photos you post and ask for review,
Mm.
because you run the risk also of getting bashed or getting questioned.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I remember one particular photo that somebody posted. It was a photo of a street urchin in Quiapo.
Ah.
Okay, somebody posted that, but the way she took it was artistically perfect, I would say.
Mm.
Okay, he didn't show the full body of the person. He just took the feet.
Mm.
Okay, very sharp. He took it in HDR. Okay, and it was from an artistic point of view, it was
Yeah.
great. Okay, but then suddenly you had people questioning why he took it. Okay, people questioning, wouldn't he rather, as a
Mm.
photographer, offer the hand to
Mm-mm.
extend help to the
Yeah.
poor boy? So these questions arise, and it becomes very challenging because it's very different from where you see in platforms like Instagram
Yeah.
or Facebook or some other forums where you'd see either just likes or
Mm.
dislikes or some other form of emoticon
Yeah.
expressions. Okay, so in back in the day, you had to articulate what you meant.
Mm.
Okay, if you didn't agree with the photographer, you would verbalize it in words. Okay, and the photographer also had the chance to either justify himself,
Mm-mm.
okay, or rationalize what he did, okay, or just plainly disagree with the
Yeah.
perspective of those who are criticizing.
Sir Arnold,
So very different.
Sir
Yeah.
Arnold, I've been told a lot of Pinoygraphers are watching you right now. So
So they are
shout out to all the Pinoygraphers who are watching.
definitely okay. So I can only see you, but okay. So
I
greetings to
believe,
all the
yeah.
photographers who are watching today. Okay, and then greetings as well to the Born in Film Nation. Okay, thank you for joining.
Keep those hearts coming.
Sure.
Okay, so Sir Arnold, I believe in Singapore, when I went there, when I met you guys, you told
Yep.
me that there was this what you call a rental building, right? So you go there, you if you want the newest, for example, the newest camera, the newest lens, you can go there and rent out the lenses. So maybe you can talk us through how the process goes.
Yeah. The advantage of being in a country like Singapore, um, I don't want to berate any other country, but at least here, you can easily find, yourself to have access to the latest models, okay, in the market. If you don't have the ability to buy them,
Yeah.
okay, like for example, for us humble OFWs,
Yeah.
okay, so the most that we can do is to at least rent.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's good that when way back then there was at least one shop or a couple of shops
Mm-mm.
who provided this kind of service. Okay, so you can rent the latest camera models.
Yeah.
You can rent the latest lenses. Okay,
Mm.
and then for a small fee, you can have them for a couple of days, play around with it, and just to your heart's content,
Wow.
and then push the envelope to see what the capabilities of these new gadgets are.
That's
Okay,
what
so
mm-mm. That's what
yeah,
we don't
that's
have
a
here,
big
right?
plus actually,
Yeah.
because you don't have to spend
A lot.
thousands or hundreds of
Yeah.
dollars to buy and try out equipment that you're not even sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
so you can just spend like a few dollars, $10, and then just rent the bloody thing, and just stay with it for a couple of days,
Mm.
and you can actually even write a review about it. Just use it to your
Yeah.
heart's content.
Mm-mm. Great. So, yeah. So, of course, Singapore is a technical hub, a tech hub, and
Mm,
not just in Southeast Asia, diba? Even the Asia Pacific region.
yep,
Like
you can say that.
what we discussed earlier, right? So, Facebook is there, Google is there, and other big tech companies, diba? And 'di ba nga kapag may bagong if there's a new iPhone or there's a new Samsung phone, um sorry. Anyway, let me just fix my camera. Wait lang. Commercial break.
I think I lost you, France.
Yeah. There, I think I'm back. There.
Okay.
Hold on. Yeah. And of course, Singapore is a tech hub, right? So, Facebook is there, Google is there, and the other big tech giants are in Singapore because it's the central tech hub in Asia. And whenever there's a new phone, whenever there's a new gadget, it's where people go. Diba? For example, there's a new iPhone. People line up at the Apple store in Singapore to get the latest model. How does it make you feel as a photographer, diba, in a country that has access to a market like that? How does it make you feel?
Uh, well, I'm spoiled for choice. I
Mm-mm.
think all the photographers here are always spoiled for choice. Okay. For me, I had the advantage of being around when there was a transition from film to digital.
Mm.
Okay. Because it was at the point where you had the peak of all the technology that was poured by the big camera films, okay, by the big camera companies, okay, in terms of the technology, in terms of the design, okay, the features and advancements that they could put into
Yeah.
all their film cameras, okay,
Mm.
and before that, the preparation that they made and push towards moving into the digital medium. Okay, so you'd see also I would say the vicious marketing wars between the big camera
Yeah.
companies. Okay, just to push their models into the arms of the photographers in the world. The good thing is if you're in a country like this, you'd either given that you have so many things, so many options to go for, you'd really be forced to think twice.
Mm.
Okay, you'd be forced to really consider carefully um, which model to take, which
Yeah.
features do you need. Okay, so it's good that you'd have
Access to that.
groups to like Pinoygraphers,
Yeah.
okay, who can provide advice based on experience.
Yeah.
Okay, it's good that you have also a great access to a wealth of information,
Mm.
which is coming from reviews by different individuals, different groups.
Mm.
Okay, so they can provide some sort of personal opinions.
Yep.
Okay, in terms of how they find certain models, certain brands, okay, or certain features. Okay, so the internet always provides you a wealth of this information, okay?
Mm.
But it doesn't substitute the personal touch, wherein you'd have people that who had the first-hand experience, or your friends, basically,
Mm.
okay, who would be able to advise you from that level of approach, where they can just tell you directly, okay. So this is what I do. Okay, and then I don't think this particular camera suits me, and these are my reasons why. Okay, other folks would take it to a more, how do you call it, a more um, a more personal level, okay, wherein they either agree or disagree. Well, it's up to you. Okay, for us, we just share with you what we think from our own perspective.
Yeah, and I believe also in Singapore, there's what we call the Great Singapore Sale, right? It happens in
Yes.
every June, right? So, can you tell us more
Well,
about
yeah.
it?
In Singapore, being a tech savvy country, okay, there's also a price to pay. Okay. However, there's a loophole around it, which is the Great Singapore Sale. So come around June, hopefully after all these lockdowns, all these quarantines, all these circuit breakers are over, I would like to invite everybody to have a look and see if there's a chance for you guys to go here and
Go
avail
shopping.
yourselves of the Great Singapore Sale.
Go shopping.
Personally, I don't know if it's still going to be on, given what's happening around us. Okay, but yes, in the past years, there was always June to look forward to. Okay, because that's around the same time where purchases are happening, at least among the photographers, because you can get the latest equipment, the greatest equipment at at a very good deal in terms of price, in terms of freebies, or in terms of additional add-ons to your purchase. Okay, so as a matter of fact, we in the Pinoygraphers, we had some sort of in our forums before, we had the price watch. Okay?
Oh, wow.
We had a thread that had some sort of a price watch. So it just basically informed, because some of us had the knack of tracking all the prices of the different equipment.
Yeah.
Okay, especially from the different distributors here locally. So we'd always be in the know in terms of okay, these guys are giving a like a 30% discount today. So that thing, so everybody sort of like,
Ready.
all the ears and radars are on. They know, okay, let's have a look.
Great. Since you mentioned the group, let's go now to Pinoygraphers.
Yeah. Okay.
What is Pinoygraphers, and how was the group? How did the group start?
Pinoygraphers is an officially registered society of photographers. Okay. In fact, it's the only registered Filipino photographers society here in Singapore. Okay, we founded ourselves a few years back. Okay, and then from there we're 13 years old now. Okay, and then it's basically a group of people who are passionate about photographers.
Wow.
Okay, so I think that's the only thing that keeps us moving forward. It's a passion for photography.
Wow.
Okay, it doesn't matter where you are in your previous life. Okay, so it's moving forward, just full dedication in terms of your love for the art of photography.
Wow. So yeah,
so
and
as a group, sorry, go ahead if you have questions.
I'm curious. What does Pinoygraphers do in terms of activities? I believe you go outside Singapore, right? So maybe you can tell us more about
Sure.
I believe you call it photo expeditions, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe.
Well, yeah. In Pinoygraphers, what we realized is that the folks who love photography cannot be grouped into sort of one category.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't say that the Pinoygraphers or the photographers in Singapore are into portraits photography.
Yeah.
You can't say that the photographers here just like landscapes. or they like travel photography. That's not the case. Okay,
Mm.
you realize early on that each person, each individual has their own tastes, has their own particular or keen interest, okay, in a specific genre of photography. Okay.
Mm.
So we have folks who have actually moved from being hobbyists
Mm.
into professional
Professionals.
photography. Okay,
Yeah.
so some of our members made that step. Okay,
Mm.
and I think some of them are already viewing this vlog
So
live. Okay,
again, shout out to
so
those
shout out to them.
Pinoygraphers
Okay,
who are watching.
so for
And
those folks,
mm,
okay, so we do acknowledge that they have specific interest in different genres. Okay, so it's great because Pinoygraphers provides a forum or
mm,
a means where the different types of photographers can meet up with people, okay, with different photographers who have the same type of interest.
yeah.
Okay,
Mm,
so we have different activities lined up for them.
mm,
Okay, so like for example, we have shoots that are geared towards those who are interested in portraiture,
yeah.
who are interested in fashion photography. Okay, so we have a few professional photographers here who also provide work professionally for magazines,
Wow.
for international, both international and
Yeah.
local. We also have activities here which are geared towards, like you mentioned earlier, photo expeditions
Yeah.
for those who are more into the travel photography genre. Okay. So, as a matter of fact, we also have one of the Philippines' most or foremost travel photographers,
Yeah.
okay, as part of our group.
Mm,
Okay, he does provide a lot of learnings and inputs for those who are aspiring to be
mm,
travel photographers.
yeah.
Okay,
Great. And
and yeah,
yeah, Sir Arnold. I believe you're one of the only registered societies in
mm,
Singapore in
we are
terms
the
of.
only registered
Yeah, you
Filipino
are.
photography society in Singapore.
Yeah,
Yes.
and maybe you can talk about how it felt when the government approved your application to become a society. What was the members' first reaction when they learned about it?
I think it was everybody was ecstatically joyful.
Because it's
Okay, it
really
was an
hard, right?
interesting journey
Mm.
because back then I think we were about I think 7 or 8 years old already.
Wow.
Okay, and it was everybody was questioning where are we going to,
Mm.
where is the group headed? Okay, because I think this is something common across the different countries where you'd have Filipino groups
Yeah.
forming themselves. People have an initial interest in terms of participating, moving the objectives of the group forward. And then after a couple of years, they sort of fizzle out. Okay. But it was for us a question of whether we were really keen to pursue this interest in
Yeah.
photography, okay, as a passion for the art. And at the same time, is it a matter of living this passion and at the same time uh, letting it sort of be seen, okay, or manifest in what we do, and at the same time transcend it into showing it to other people.
Mm.
Okay, so they see that we're doing this thing. Okay, so we've had a few criticisms as well with respect to where we were going, but
Mm.
the years have proven. Okay, so we're actually celebrating our
Yeah,
13th
I believe we
year
have a
anniversary
photo.
now.
I believe we have a photo of that. I believe you
Oh, you
celebrated it online, right? On Zoom.
yeah, we had a sort of an online toast among the folks who were into the core team who was still CEO of the Pinoygraphers. Okay, so
Great.
thanks for showing that. But essentially, it was a point where we questioned ourselves as well. Okay, so how did we see ourselves at this point, and how we saw ourselves back then, and how it would translate for the years to come. Okay, so from there we thought that what would be the best way forward. Okay, we were heavily involved in a lot of local activities with the Filipino community, especially with the Philippine Embassy. We had our contacts and as well our engagements with the other embassies as well, the expat community as well as the diplomatic core community here in Singapore.
Mm.
Okay, and we were heavily involved in that. But it was a question of what's next.
Yeah.
What do we do next? Okay, so we thought that the best way forward. Okay, so I'd like to recognize also Bong Odal, who is our founder here in Singapore.
Who's actually monitoring us right
Oh,
now?
great.
He's helping out with the back end.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. So through his push and urging as well, so we organized ourselves and sought out the Singapore government's advice as well in terms of how to move forward. Okay. And basically, the single response that we received is that we should apply and get ourselves formally recognized by the local government. Okay, and from there we should be able to open doors with both the local communities and with foreign communities to have ourselves sort of formally recognized and
Yeah.
formally acknowledged as a society.
And that's also one of the learnings Tito Bong has been sharing with us. Like for example, if you want to establish a group, the foundation has to be. I mean, you really need to start it right. So what we
Correct.
did here in Photo Nation was we had to register it in the DTI, in SEC, so that everything's legit, right? So there's nothing wrong about being going that straight path, right? So okay, so Sir Arnold,
Yeah.
I believe you sent us some photos that you've been able
Ouch.
to shoot, and yeah, the first one that you sent us was a portrait. Maybe you can discuss more about how you shot this, or
Okay.
go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a photo of my dear friend Chris.
Mm.
Okay, she's a music teacher. But the
Wow.
story behind this photo is actually one of a collaboration between the University of the Philippines Alumni Association here in Singapore,
Mm.
okay, and the Bayanihan Center, the community project that was set up to sort of showcase the different traditions as far as costumes or clothes or dress that the Filipinos wore from the Spanish era. Okay, and how
Wow.
it has sort of been adopted from then, okay, into the modern times. Okay, so what this photo represents is sort of a modernized version of the Maria
Filipina.
Clara, okay, or the Barong and Saya.
Barong Saya.
Traditionally, it's called the Filipina. Okay,
Filipiniana.
Uh,
Filipina. Yeah.
yeah, it's a Filipiniana costume. Okay, and then it's traditionally called as a Filipina. Okay, wherein you'll have the blouse, which is basically a very light material. This one is, if I recall correctly, was made up of a husi, okay,
Yeah.
with a silk skirt. Okay,
From
so
Pineapple.
Chris here, which is who is my model,
Yeah.
she's actually a music teacher. Okay,
Mm.
she specializes in the violin and strings. Okay, so
Mhm.
what we asked her to do is to bring her instrument of choice or weapon of choice,
Yeah.
and to just to make her as the model, because she's not a professional model. She's actually a music teacher, but part of the things we do in Pinoygraphers is to find ways to get our subjects to be at ease, okay, in their own skin. Okay, so you try to incorporate elements of their own self. Okay, so that when you take a photo of them, when you take the shot of them, they will feel more at ease with themselves. So you'd see as a photographer that they are relaxed. Okay, they are more themselves. Okay, and then you can actually see that expression shining through. So rather than a very stiff pose or a very studied pose wherein you try your best to coach them or to tell them, okay, pose in a certain way, do this, do that, okay, put your hands in that. So once they have their weapon of choice at hand, okay, so you
They're
can,
ready to.
they just sort of, move directly into the pose that makes them feel very comfortable.
Great.
Okay?
So,
And this has
yeah.
happened all the time. Okay? So in our shoots.
Great. So I believe you also sent us another photo, and
Oh, okay.
apart from portraits, you also do events photography, right? So I believe that's
Yes.
one of your that's one of your fortes, if we can call it like that. Yeah. Um, yeah. So you also sent us a photo of a
Wow.
dragon boat event, right? So can you tell us more about when this was?
Right. So this was taken last year, actually. This was in collaboration with the Filipino Dragon Boat Society in Singapore. Okay. So every year they organize a dragon boat race. It's a semi-competitive race, but it's good because it's participated by other societies, both Filipino societies, expat societies, and societies as well from organizations basically from other
Yeah.
countries. Okay, so they group together, they form teams, teams who have probably had no prior knowledge or skill in dragon boating, but it's all for fun. Okay, and you can see how much it's popular, it's active, and people really flock to it and give their full support. Okay, so this is also in collaboration with the Philippine Embassy. So we have our local ambassador joining, or his representatives providing the full support, okay,
Mm.
for the event. Okay, so that shot that you just displayed
Yeah.
was actually a composite of, I believe, 12 photographs taken
Wow.
in a panorama suite. Okay?
Mm.
For those of you who are taking panorama shots on your cell phone, this particular shot was done old school style. So that meant that I had to take 12 shots in sequence, from left to right.
And
Okay,
then
and then
patch it.
stitching them,
Yeah.
yeah, patching them together in Photoshop. Okay, so I do use Photoshop, but not to be not to be how do you call that? Not to be bad, but or what? But it basically is a good tool that allows photographers to extend their abilities in terms of
Pushing the envelope.
providing great captures as well for the events that. So personally, my particular genre is that I love to take events.
Events.
Okay,
Great.
I love to document events.
Yeah.
Okay, so some folks are into landscape, some folks are into macro.
You're into events.
You can't fault me, but I love documenting events.
Great. So, sir, for those who want to pursue a career in events photography,
Mm-hmm.
any tips you can share with them for those who want to pursue it?
Mm. How do
What's
I
the
say that?
first thing? What's the first thing that they need
The
to
first thing
have?
that comes to mind is, especially when you're taking events that involve dignitaries. Okay, so never ever take photos of the dignitaries when they're eating. Okay,
Yeah, and
sounds funny, but it's very practical.
yeah, and
Okay,
just
so
sir, just to jump into that, since
yeah, sure,
you're talking about SOPs, what are some
yeah,
of the ethics that you need to observe in event photography, especially in covering
okay,
events where VIPs are involved in terms of attire, right? So how do you shoot events like that?
Yeah, true. Agree. Well, the first thing is you have to do your homework. Okay. Due diligence is always
Yeah.
part of a photographer's portfolio. Okay. So if you are shooting an event, make sure that your attire matches what the event is. Okay.
Mhm.
You cannot attend a diplomatic reception wearing a t-shirt or
Or
rubber
a
shoes
sando.
or a sandal. Okay. Or a singlet. Okay. Definitely no. That's a big no-no. Okay. If you're attending a wedding, same thing. Okay, if you're attending a birthday party, okay, for some reason, I don't know why, but if are attending a birthday party, probably the casual attire is more appropriate rather than a suit
Yeah.
or a tuxedo. Okay, so just make sure that you're dressed appropriately,
Yeah.
and of course, behavior is very important. Okay, if you're attending an event, okay, as a practice, I do not promote Pinoygraphers.
Mm.
Okay, the organizers know that I'm there. Okay,
I
at the
Yeah.
most,
Go ahead.
I can leave my business card
Yeah.
at the front desk.
Mm-mm.
Okay, but I do not verbally promote the Pinoygraphers or
Mm-mm.
myself. Okay, I know I'm there. If people approach me, ask me if where they can find a copy of their photos, I just politely tell them that to please contact the organizers. Okay, and then
Wow.
they can ask or request if they can have a copy of their photos through them. Okay?
Very,
So
very,
it's a bit of a
mm-mm.
it's a bit of a courtesy as
Yeah.
well.
Very,
Okay, and at the
very,
same time, it shows
yeah,
professionalism as a photographer.
very professional. And yeah,
Yeah.
sir, the next photo you sent us is a photo of an orchestra. Now, this photo, for
Uh,
those who are watching, I've had the chance to ask Sir Arnold about this. He told me that it's the only surviving photo because his hard drive crashed. So, sir, maybe you can tell us how you felt when your hard drive crashed.
that was a very very sad day.
Hmm.
I'm laughing now, but really, I lost about 3 years worth of
Wow.
photographs there. Okay, so it's one advantage to have digital media where you can access your photos anytime. But at the same time, if you're not careful in terms of where you store your media, you run the risk of encountering a very sad story
Yeah.
like what I had. Okay, so I lost 3 years worth of data,
Wow.
information, photos. Okay, so this one is the only surviving photo of that event. Okay,
Mm.
this was actually a photo of a concert by the Marsiling Chinese Orchestra.
Mm.
Okay, so this was done in conjunction. There was also a Filipino Bandurria orchestra
Mm.
that was part of this event.
Wow.
Okay, so the shots that I got of them were all lost. Okay, but this was the only photo surviving. Okay, so it was featured in the local government arts media platform, the websites.
Mm.
Okay, wherein it shows a young string player.
Mm.
Okay, who sort of in the middle of the of the piece just had a chance to look up and see, just basically take in full um, the full event. Okay, you have the orchestra,
Yeah.
you have the audience there, all focused on them, and then she just took a break, a respite, just to look up and see, take in all that view. People looking at her, people
Uh,
looking at them as an
yeah.
orchestra, and then just take it in. Okay, and so I believe in this particular photo, I was happy to be able to capture that particular emotion, okay, and have it reflected in her face.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it was actually, I even had a personal sort of message from the conductor of the orchestra, okay, the lead, thanking me for this photo, and they actually used it for some time to represent their group. Okay,
Yeah. So yeah,
these captures are very sort of rewarding from a
exactly.
photographer's perspective.
Exactly. And yeah, for those who are watching, it's really worth investing in cloud storage. Um, just to, I mean, just yeah, just to save what you've been working on for quite a while.
Correct, correct.
Yeah, and sir, moving on to
My
the next.
my storage before France was
Yeah.
just a local drive.
Mm,
So if you lose the if that drive crashes, you run the risk
you're gone.
of losing your photos.
Yeah.
Okay, it's good now because we do have
Cloud.
advances in technology. You have cloud storage. That even if you don't have any local disks where you store your digital images, the cloud storage also provides access anytime, and then you can actually access your photos from anywhere, everywhere in the world, which is good. I
Yeah.
think this is a very good direction that the entire industry is taking.
Great. Yeah, and hold on. Yeah, and moving on to the next portion.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned some of your members, I believe, yeah, Eman was also able to come here and join one of our events. How important is it to connect your group, Pinoygraphers, with other groups like Photo Nation? I believe as a group, you do photo expeditions, diba? Kanina you mentioned about that.
Yep.
And is connecting with other groups an advantage, especially when you travel?
Franz, that's a no-brainer question.
Yeah.
Nobody in the world now lives in the mountains,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Mm.
We live in a very connected world.
Mm.
Okay, no matter where you are, no matter where you live, okay, whether you have very slow internet connection or what, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay, the connectivity across the world is something that's almost taken.
Mm.
Okay, and there's no reason for even photographers not to be connected to other photographers as well. Okay, it doesn't matter whether you're an individual or whether you're a group. Okay, especially if you're a group, it's always good to have friends across the world to collaborate, okay, to share knowledge, to share information, experiences.
Yeah.
Okay, especially in the light of enriching each other's experiences, enriching each other's knowledge to improve your skill, to improve your depth of knowledge as well in this art that we love, which is photography.
Great. So
sorry, I can't
okay.
say anything more than that, but that's basically where we are right now.
Okay, Sir Arnold, we have some questions that were sent to us by our members and some of our friends. Let's try to read the first one. We have one from Ray Anthony Villaverde. He asks, what principle should a good photographer uphold? So maybe you can...
that is a very good question, and a question that a lot of photographers are asking continuously. Okay, it's part of the values that you have as a person.
Yeah.
Okay, it depends from a situational perspective. Okay, if you're confronted with a situation where you can either help, or you can take a photo. Okay, so what would you do? Okay, for me, as a person, it always comes forth that your humanity should show up primarily. Okay, so you help. Okay, photography becomes secondary. However, to improve yourself as a photographer, okay, except for that extreme situation, you never stop learning. Okay, you don't close your mind. You don't say that, okay, I'm better, or this particular type of style is better, or what. You always have to keep your mind open. Okay, you learn, you
You
study,
study.
you appreciate
Appreciate.
the different styles, the different
Yeah.
approaches other people have in their artwork.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because it's not a matter of just saying that it's subjective, but really when it comes to the arts, it's something that you really have to keep an open mind. Make sure that you can expose yourself to as much uh, options or as much variation that's available out there in
Yeah.
the world. Okay, and then you might suddenly surprise yourself and do a complete 180 or left turn and see yourself taking a different type of genre altogether.
Great.
Okay,
So
so keep your minds open. Yeah.
exactly. So, yeah, I also believe we have a few friends who are calling us tonight. Let's try to pull in
Okay.
Micah. Hold on. Let me just pull her in. Hello? Hello, Mike.
Hi,
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 Micah.
hello.
Hello. How are you?
Hello.
Hi. Hello, Micah.
Good.
How are you,
Hi,
Micah?
hi, Sir Arnold.
Hey, so I believe you have a question for Sir Arnold.
Yeah, I do. I actually have two. So first one is more of about the relocating. So you mentioned earlier that one of the things that helps most people adapt to a new environment is that finding new groups with a common interest. But for you personally, what helped you the most to adapt in your new environment?
Okay, thank you for that question. It's actually very relevant, okay,
Yeah.
as far as I would say the Filipino community is concerned. Okay, because oftentimes we have folks who are transferring to different countries
Mm-hmm.
with different sets of expectations. Okay, so the best way to prepare, I would say, is not only to be mindful of where you're going to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so from a, let's say, a professional perspective, for example, you're a nurse or you're an
Yeah.
IT specialist. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you would have had the best training possible for your education, for your previous background when you transfer to a country like Singapore. But
Uh-huh.
there's that's only one half of it.
The
Yeah.
Okay, the
story.
other half is knowing how to get along with the folks, with other people.
Mm.
Okay, working with
Okay.
them, being able to understand their culture, being able to
Mm-hmm.
understand the individuals also as a group. There's a culture thing that you have to be respectful of. You have to be mindful of,
Yeah.
and then at the same time, individually, there's a level of understanding and respect that you always have to keep in mind.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so you have to keep that also into perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Great.
I hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah. Definitely did.
Micah, do you have
um,
any other questions? Go ahead.
with the moving to a new country, did your photography style change in any way coming from here in the Philippines and then there in Singapore?
I can only say yes, definitely. Okay, I laugh, Mike. Apologies, not at your question, but it's because I recall the period where when I transferred to Singapore. Okay, film back in the day in 2000, I believe was at its peak. Okay, so there
Mm,
were
yeah,
no
actually.
new models, no new cameras, or no new technologies coming out. uh, all the big camera companies were focusing in developing digital, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, there was a big concern from photographers because the entry point into photography using the digital medium was very costly. Okay, you either had
Okay.
a very rich family background in order to enter the digital field, or you had a very well-paying job, or
Mm-hmm.
you could go by the opposite way. You can just sell your arm or your leg and buy a camera that was decent enough to take digital photos. Um, Back then, it was a choice. Okay? It was a deliberate choice and a very conscious choice if you wanted to go into digital photography. So for me, I was starting out as an expat, okay, but I didn't have the funds or the capability to buy the latest model or the latest equipment. So I had to do very careful research. I had the advantage of being assigned actually to Japan for a project for a year.
Wow.
Okay, so
Wow.
so if you had if I had the advantage of being in Singapore, which already had access, which allowed you access to the latest models of equipment. Okay, I had the additional advantage of being assigned to a project in Japan, wherein it's basically the home of all these camera companies that had the offerings of their latest equipment. Okay, I could see the latest models even before they had the chance to translate their manuals into English. Okay, so
Wow.
so the in terms of change of style, it's a definitely yes. Okay, because from film and then having all sorts of options available for you in the digital sphere,
Yeah.
it's totally a mind-blowing experience.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you had to be very careful because you wouldn't want to be immersed into a particular like system. Okay, then suddenly you find out you're not happy with it, and then you're forced to transfer out to a different system. So it's basically back then for me it was an investment in the ecosystem, meaning if you went into Nikon, okay, so you had to consider not only the body, you also had to consider the lenses, the support, the firmware, all those things had to be put into mind.
Great. So, Micah, do you have any other questions?
Oh, no, that's it.
You're good.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you also, Micah, for calling in.
Thank you, Sir Arnold.
Thank
Stay
you,
safe.
Micah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so let's go now to some other questions that were sent to us. Hold on. Yeah, so I believe we have one from Charlou, Mark. What do you do in order to adapt to a new environment as a photographer? How do you adapt when you're new?
Okay, I'm not sure if I understand your question, Charlou.
I think.
But basically, let me try to frame it.
Go ahead.
As somebody moving in from Philippines to a new country. Okay, maybe that will help. If I frame it that way, you have to be observant foremost of the cultures. Okay, but regardless of where you are, there are a few ethical questions that you would want to make sure that you keep asking yourself. Okay, especially for those who are into probably street photography. Okay, I would say there is always a point that you have to be mindful of what you take. Okay, you think whether what you're taking is legal. Well, that's the first thing. The second part is whether if you're taking a shot of a person, you need to ask whether you need to take the consent of the person before taking the shot. Okay, or if it's something that is that the person would not object to. Okay, it's not a matter of justifying it to yourself. Okay, you have to be mindful always of the subject. You have to be mindful of the folks around you. Okay, so you have to detach yourself from the situation. There's no place for the ego for yourself. Okay, if you keep on thinking introspectively, okay, just trying to justify what you're doing or what you're taking, you're gonna be ending up in a lot of trouble. Trying to either with the law or with the subject, the people that you're taking a shot of. Okay, so you have to think of it from an external perspective, trying to see how people view you as a photographer. It's not always from your perspective that you are a photographer or you want to be a photographer or you just plainly want to take photos. It's easily taken for granted, especially nowadays with the proliferation of camera phones. It's very easy. But keep in mind that your subjects are people. They have feelings, they have thoughts. Okay, you have to consider and be considerate of them as well.
Great. So, I believe Charlu has a follow-up question.
Oh, sure.
Let's try to read his follow-up question. So, Charlu asks, do you reach out to other creatives for tips or just find ways to do it yourself? So, are you a fan of...
I would say yes to both. Okay. I said earlier, nobody lives in silos nowadays. Okay. So, nobody, it's a very connected world that we live in right now. And it's no different then and now because back in the day, even without the platforms available in social media or in the internet these days, there's always a desire to reach out to people who have the same passion as you as a photographer. Okay, it just manifests itself differently. Okay, versus what we have right now. Right now, it's very easy. Okay, I'm pretty sure maybe 5 years, 3 years, or even 2 years down the road, it would be a totally different ballgame. Okay, it might be even faster in terms of connectivity. It might be even easier to connect with different people who have the same passion as you. But definitely, it's not something that you pursue by yourself. Okay, there are things that you do by yourself. Okay, especially if you have a keen interest in pursuing a specific project. Okay, those things you can do on your own. But then again, as a photographer, I think I speak for everybody that you cannot help but share this, your results. You cannot help but share your output. Okay, you definitely be very proud of what you've accomplished and share it to the community at large. So I would say yes to both approaches.
Great. So now I believe we have some members of Pinoygraphers on the line with us tonight in support of Sir Arnold. So I believe we have a member here, Sir Rene. Hi, Sir Rene. Hello. Can you hear us? Hello? Sir Rene, can you hear us? Hold on. I believe, let me try to fix the audio. There? Hello? Sir Rene, are you there? Hello? I believe he's trying to fix his audio.
Hello?
There! We have Sir Rene.
There
Hi,
he
Sir
is.
Rene. How are you?
I'm good. Good evening, guys.
Hi, Rene. Hello.
How's the lockdown right now?
Not a lot of things that you can do while in lockdown. Our movements are very restricted. You don't want to risk a $10,000 fine. You get caught.
Yeah, and Sir Rene, we have been seeing your works here in Photo Nation. So for those who don't know, he's also a member here. Other than Pinoygraphers, he's also a member of Photo Nation. So Sir Rene, how does shooting film make you feel?
Actually, I only started shooting film, I guess, late last year. So I would say it's kind of a mixed feeling because once when you're used to shooting digital, you get that instant gratification, seeing the preview of what you have shot, right?
Yeah.
But going back to film, you don't have the luxury of being able to view what you have taken. So in a way, it's also good because it forces you to slow down, to make sure you have your settings right, to make sure you have your composition right. And you get excited actually, right? Because probably you'll get the output maybe at least 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
unlike digital. So it's a mixed feeling shooting film again.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, and I believe you're also building up your equipment, right? So I believe you showed your, I think, yeah, you posted your large format.
Especially during lockdown, where our main mode of entertainment is eBay.
Yeah, I believe there's hold on, let me just fix the audio. I believe it's on your end. Go ahead, Sir Rene. Final thoughts about film photography.
I guess what I like about film photography, whenever I buy my supplies for films, it feels good that you would see most of the time there are a lot of young people's millennials buying films, buying film cameras. So it seems like there's a really um, a unique interest. I don't know if it will last for the younger generation, but I always see it as a good sign when people are trying to go back to the old film and analog medium.
Yeah, and I believe we have some exciting things to see from Sir Rene. Hey, so thank you for calling in, Sir Rene. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, thanks very much, guys.
We're excited to see more of your photos from Singapore. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Rene.
Hey, so Sir Arnold, I believe you have a great composition in your group, diba? You have film photographers, you have digital photographers.
Among the Pinoygraphers, as I said, it's a mixed bunch of photographers. Okay? And a lot of us can trace our roots actually in film. Okay, like personally for me, I started in photography when I was
high school.
In high school. I think that was 2 years ago. Seriously though, we way back then, my school had a dark room. Okay, and I was involved in setting up the local photography society. Okay, for that school. Okay, so we covered we were the official photographers for the school, covering events, covering the activities of the school, and at the same time we would have the access to our own darkroom. Okay, so way back then, of course, we used black and white film, and we would develop our own output. Okay, so we would take a shot, or we would cover an event during the day, and by late evening, we would see whether who was the better photographer in terms of the output, whether we would trash the role of one person or the other. Okay. But that was it. That was it basically. Okay. So the love of photography was there. It traces our roots from that media, where you had to be very patient. Okay. It was a bit labor intensive. Okay, and I agree with Rene. Okay, in the sense that both of us, well, a lot of people are appreciating how the younger folks are moving and discovering and appreciating the film medium. Okay, because it traces back to the origins and the roots of photography. Okay, it doesn't give you immediate gratification, but I would say that it allows the photographer to be very deliberate and be very purposeful. Okay, so those are the two key words in terms of putting into practice, into very practical use. The passion that each person has, each photographer has for the art.
Great. So I believe we have our last sent question to us.
Sure.
It's from Adrian Gahasyan, who's also part of the team that's organizing the back end. He asks, what are some ethics of shooting do you follow in street photography?
Okay. Good question. I'm also a bit into street photography. Okay, but I think I gave a few stories earlier. Okay? So, but some of the ethics to follow is something that you question, that you direct to yourself. Okay, so whether the values that you have provide enough sort of drive or motivation for you to take that photo or not. Okay, so at the point that you see a particular scene, okay, in a street photo, you question yourself whether should you push the button or not. Okay, it depends entirely on the scenario. It depends entirely on that plus the photographer itself. Okay, so I mentioned earlier an extreme case wherein do you help extend the hand, okay, for a given situation wherein the subject actually needs some help, or whether you just take the shot. Okay, it's easy to take for granted because you have easily people taking videos or taking photos through their cell phone, but nobody lifts a hand to help the actual person who needs that help. Okay, so I would question the people around whether they thought first of helping the person in need or not. Okay, so the ethics becomes a personal question. What do you do?
What do
Okay,
you
given the situation. Okay, of course, beyond that, there are the simpler things that should govern the photographer, whether that particular image would portray the truth that the situation shows.
Yeah.
Okay, in just remember,
Yeah.
when you take a photo, okay, it's just a slice in time. Okay, in Pinoygraphers we call it a slice in time because it's always subjective.
Yeah.
You can take a photo showing a person probably being pushed down by another one, okay? But in reality, it could have been a self-defense act, okay, or self-preservation act, okay? When you take a slice in time, that shot of that particular scene, it's never clear in terms of what point or interpretation does it take.
Yeah.
Okay, so for street photographers, it's very difficult. It's very challenging. Okay, a lot of street photographers I know opt for abstracts. Okay, so they take shapes, they take patterns, but for those who are involved in the more, how do you call it, in the more personal side of street photography, involving people as subjects,
Yeah.
then it becomes very subjective. The question of ethics comes into play stronger. Okay, so I would urge personally uh, people who are into street photography to question themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, to think strongly before pushing the button or pushing the shutter.
Great. So, So let's. I believe we have a phone call again from
Okay.
one of your members in
Oh,
Pinoygraphers. Hello. Are you there, Eman? Hello, Eman. Hello,
hi,
Eman.
Aman.
I believe it's on mute. Hello, Eman. Hello. Hello. Hold on, let me try to... There,
Hi.
Eman.
Hi, hi.
Eman. Kamusta? How are
Hi,
you?
good evening, everyone, or
How's
rather,
the-
good morning.
How's the lockdown?
All
in
right.
your
Good morning,
area?
Eman.
It's really good. I'm starting to see or to notice how the light fall into my electric fan and noticing the shadow in it. You know.
Yeah, and I believe you're near Sir Arnold, right? You live
Yep.
near him.
Yeah,
Great.
few
So-
blocks.
Yeah, and Eman, you were able to visit the Philippines during
Right,
overexposed, right? You've been able to visit
Right,
us
right.
during. How did it feel for you?
Oh, it's amazing. I never thought that film photography will be popular once again. I mean, looking at the crowd, so
Yeah.
many millennials are trying or using film for their arts.
Yeah.
So really amazing. Because when back during the times I'm leaving Philippines, everybody
Yeah.
wants a digital camera.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants film.
Mm.
But after 10 years, 12 years, all of a sudden everybody wants film camera.
Great. And
Yeah, it's
how
really
does it-
amazing.
How does it make you feel na people are starting to pitch in to revive the medium? Masaya ka ba?
Oh, of course.
Lalo na
I'm
dito.
very happy.
Yeah.
Because shooting films, as what Rene is saying, it's force you to be more disciplined, more take your time, be slow,
Yeah.
think, before you hit that button.
Yeah. And I believe you're one of the Pinoygraphers who does great fashion portraits, right?
Right.
I've
Yeah.
seen some
I
of your
shoot portrait.
I've seen some of your posts, and I'm actually a fan of your art.
Thank you.
Of your photos. Galing. Thank you, Eman. Thank you for calling in.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's promote film,
Great.
guys.
Yeah.
See you soon.
Thanks for joining.
Stay
Eman.
safe, guys.
Stay safe.
All right. Bye.
Hey, Sir Arnold. Yeah.
Yep.
So how does it make you feel? You have very supportive members in Pinoygraphers.
I am very blessed and fortunate to have a wonderful. Okay, I'm actually just how do you call that? I'm riding the wave here because without people like Eman,
Yeah.
like Rene, like
Yeah.
Bong, and basically every other Pinoygrapher, it's nothing.
Okay, so
It's great to have a group supporting you. It's great to have a group who have the same passion in photography. It's great to know people like yourself as well, Franz. Okay, so to know that we're not alone. Okay, we're not silos here in this love of the photography art, and everybody is still into it. I wouldn't call it. We call millennials. We call X, Generation X, Generation C, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, I call Bong Lolo Bong, but everybody's the same. Okay, I don't care how old are you. If you have the same open-mindedness and passion for photography,
let's do it.
I don't care what genre you're in, what media you're using. Okay, you're a photographer. We love you. We'll support you.
Great. So let me just say hi to those who are watching. Hi to Andy Pasqua. I believe he's your member, right? Andy
Yes,
Pasqua,
yes.
who's into sports photography, diba?
Yep, he's one of the foremost sports photographers here in
Wow.
Singapore.
Wow.
So imagine that we have a member, a Filipino member here, who is fully recognized locally as a premier sports photographer. So he's involved in the Singapore sports.
Yeah.
How do you call that? The sports association,
Yeah.
in terms of covering the official Olympic or
Wow.
local SEA Games. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so it's great to have him here. He's a lot of help in terms of sharing his experiences, sharing his work as well, and his passion for sports photography. Okay,
It's such an
So,
honor to
hey,
have
Andy.
you watch us.
yeah, it's cool.
Great. So we have some more people watching us. Hi, Nicola. I believe one of our friends, Nicola Kostic in Bali, is also watching.
Hey,
For-
Nicola.
For those who are watching, do check out Nicola's interview. I believe he interviewed Corinne, who's a photographer in Paris, who's also going to be on the Film Factor podcast. So, for those who've seen, I believe he did a premiere of his podcast. Do check that out. And I believe we have more people who are watching. Hi, Lottie. Hi, Lali. The daughter of Tito Bong is watching. Hi, Lali. Hello. We also have Tita Maria. Hi, Tita Maria. Kamusta po? How are you? And yeah, and we have a couple more people watching. So, we're now down to our last segment. Ready ka na ba,
Okay.
Sir Arnold? Medyo, it's a bit challenging to answer
Kakabahan ba ako niya?
some of the questions here. So,
Okay.
are you ready?
I have no idea what you're talking about, but sure, go ahead.
Okay, so let's try to play a game. Hold on, let me just try to pull in your video. Ready? Sir Arnold,
Okay.
one question, one answer. Ready?
Sige.
Events or portraits?
Events.
Events. Philippines or Singapore?
Singapore.
Asia or the West?
Oh, Asia.
Whiskey or wine?
Whiskey.
Mobile phone or DSLR?
DSLR.
DSLR or mirrorless?
DSLR.
Nikon, Canon, Sony, Fuji, or Panasonic?
You're forcing me. Nikon.
Nikon. Full frame or APC sensor?
Full frame.
Zoom lens or fixed lens?
Fixed.
If you only have one lens to bring, what will it be?
50 mm.
50 mm. Okay. Sunset or sunrise?
Sunset. I
Sunset.
am a late, a late waker upper.
First photo on your shot list.
First photo.
Yes. On your shot list.
On my shot list, of perfect sunset.
Perfect sunset. Okay. Colored or black and white?
Colored.
Photoshop or Lightroom?
Photoshop.
Instagram or Facebook?
Ooh. One or the other. I'm more into Facebook actually.
Books or ebooks?
Books.
Nude photography or fashion? Or fashion photography?
Sorry, fashion, I guess.
Nude photography or fashion?
Yeah, I'm not into the first, but I'm more probably on the second. I don't know what it is.
Brand new or used equipment?
Brand new.
Okay. So, eto, Sir Arnold, you need to answer this last question. If your
Okay.
battery is almost dead and you need to shoot an event, what photo will you prioritize? Yeah, and you need to explain why.
I've been covering events for the longest time. Okay, and I would say that experience has happened more than once. Okay, so what I would do is I would switch off my camera. Okay, and make sure that I save, one or two shots, the only thing that's remaining. Okay, for group shots. Okay, when I'm in an event, I have to be very conscious in terms of my battery life. Okay, but it does happen that I sometimes miscalculate and I end up with not having enough juice
Yeah.
to power through. Okay, so normally what happens is that if you have an event with some government officials. Okay, so the usual thing that I do is that I leave my last shot to make sure that at least the dignitary
Yeah.
or the guest of honor has a last shot with either the organizers, okay, or in the case of Singapore, with the participants of the event.
Great. So,
Okay, so yeah.
yeah, and Sir Arnold, we're down to your final words. What advice can you give to the other Filipinos who are working abroad?
Keep an open mind, guys. You as Filipinos, you are not unique. You are not by yourselves
Yeah.
in this situation. Okay, a lot of other folks are seeking to migrate also to other countries, but keep an open mind. Okay, when you land in the shores of another country, be mindful that it's not always straightforward in terms of dealing with the people around you. Okay, you have to be very flexible. You have to be very open-minded to make sure that you can adapt. You can fit into the culture. Okay, it's not only specific to the workplace, but it's also to your neighbors, to the people around you. Okay, so it's not something that you keep to yourself and then justify yourself in terms of what you're doing, what your actions are. But you have to think outside of
Cage.
your own self.
Yeah. Sir Arnold, we just have a follow-up question from our friend Nicola Kostic. He's
Sure.
asking if you still have your first camera that you bought with your own money. Is it still with you? Do you keep it?
I do, but unfortunately, it's all corroded and it's
Because of-
basically unusable.
yeah,
But
because of-
I have it. I
Wow.
definitely have it.
You really have to preserve that. I mean, it's important for you, right? Great.
Yeah, it's important for me in the sense that it's the first camera I bought with my own money.
Great.
But the thing is, it's unusable. I actually left it in Manila when I transferred here in
It's
Singapore.
here, yeah.
I only was able to retrieve it a couple of years back when I came back to Manila to visit my folks or my sister. And then I, for some reason, discovered it locked away in one of the cabinets. It had about centimeter thick mold, growing in it. So I was actually mindful to handle it. I just wasn't sure, but at least from a sentimental perspective, it's there, and it's good because you realize that viewing that first piece of equipment, the journey that
You've been through.
it took, that you went through with it, okay, from the start all the way to where you are right now.
Great. Somehow it's like somehow to honor what you've been through. Great. So, Sir Arnold,
Agreed.
for those who want to follow Pinoygraphers Singapore, maybe you can show the viewers. Maybe you can link them where they can join. For those who are in Singapore who are just discovering your group, where can they go?
Yeah, sure. We're mostly active in Facebook. Okay, we believe that it's a more, the younger folks would probably say that we're old-fashioned, but Facebook seems to be a more common ground for most everybody. Okay, so you can look for us at Pinoygraphers Singapore in brackets. Okay, so just look for Pinoygraphers. You should be able to spot us immediately. Okay, so we're maintaining both a page where we provide announcements and some helps and tips as well. And then we carry on a more active conversation with our group on Facebook as well. Okay, so do join us, look for us and join us there. And just shout out, feel free, say hello, say goodbye,
Great.
whatever. Just greet us.
Yeah, great. So, thank you, Sir Arnold, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate having you on our show. And
No worries, Franz, and thank you as well for hosting us.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to doing more partnerships with Pinoygraphers. And if there's any Pinoygraphers who are coming into the Philippines after the lockdown, do let us know so we can do a photo walk with you guys. Hey,
That's
thank you.
that's a definite yes, Franz.
Thank you, Sir Arnold. Thank you for joining
Okay.
us. Great.
Thank you also.
Thank
Bye.
you. Okay, so I believe that's all the time we have for tonight. But don't forget, we have a benefit show tomorrow night at 10 p.m. I believe one of our performers are watching us tonight. Ryan. Hi, Ryan. We have some performers who will be performing with us tomorrow night at 10 p.m. We're just trying to fix all our schedules and the internet. So it depends on if we air at 10 p.m. or 10:30. So do wait for us. We will be live tomorrow night with some of our friends who are performing. We will be having Ryan Odensal, Kit Mandangit, Hans Malgapo, Venus, and Alex and Noreen. So if you're watching this, the event tomorrow night will be for the benefit of the House of Sumang, who's trying their best to survive the pandemic. Most of their patients are the elderly who are starting to run out of food. Great. So great. So I believe that's all the time we have for tonight. For those who want to donate, we have been posting some of the links on how to donate for the House of Sumang. And do watch it tomorrow night at 10 p.m. or probably 10:30 to 11 p.m. We'll try to see. Happy Labor Day, everyone. We will be leaving you with this song from Deborah Dixon, in honor of all our Filipinos who have been working abroad for the Philippines. This is Franz. Thank you for watching. See you next week.
Working like a dog. It's been a hard day's night. I should be sleeping like a lord. But when I get home to you, I find the things that you do will make me feel alright. You know
And that was Film Factor. Join us again next time. Follow us on our social platforms at Born in Film on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Don't forget to use hashtag The Passion Lives On.
Everything. That's why I love to come home. 'Cause when I get you alone, you know I feel okay. When I'm home, everything seems to be right. When I'm home, I'm feeling you holding me tight, yeah. It's been a hard day's night, and I've been working like a dog. It's been a hard day's night. I should be sleeping like a lord. But when I get home to you, I find the things that you do will make me feel alright. When I'm home, everything seems to be right. When I'm home, I'm feeling you holding me tight, yeah. It's been a hard
And that was Film Factor. Join us again next time. Follow us on our social platforms at Born in Film on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Don't forget to use hashtag The Passion Lives On.
like a lord. But when I get home to you, I find the things that you do will make me feel alright. You know I feel alright, yeah, will make me feel alright.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.